All right, guys, welcome. So we are this season beginning to launch the Flying V Over the Road podcast. More of a video podcast here on YouTube. Maybe at some point we'll put it on podcast platforms. However, we spend so much damn time in the truck traveling to go hunting everywhere that we're like, you know what? This would be a great time to rip out a podcast while we're driving.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're doing. So follow along. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. This one you're going to see really quick. It's going to go tomorrow, right, Dane?
Yep.
Okay. But we wanted to make a quick announcement. On September 21st, if you are in Montana or any surrounding area and you would like to join, we are hosting the first annual Flying V Migration Mixer. It is going to be a big party at the new Flying V shop. It's free food, free beer, awesome raffles, and live music. We have a full country band coming. Going to be putting on a full-fledged concert. It's family-friendly. Bring your kids, bring your wives, bring your girlfriends, bring your side piece, whatever you want to do.
Bring your buddies.
Bring your buddies.
Yep.
Yeah, bring whoever you want to bring. It's going to be a fun gathering. It's the week before our season opens in Montana.
Yep.
So, it's just a time to get everybody together, talk to other hunters, feed the stoke, get everybody fired up, and then a week from that day, the 28th, is when we open in Montana. So that's when we're going to be grinding and really getting after it then. So September 21st at the new Flying V shop. If you want to come, you can go to the Flying V Solutions Instagram page or any of our personal pages, mine, Brady Davis, Matt McCormick, Dane Williams, and or Ryan Kendall. All of us have a flyer posted on our Instagram where you can get the address for the shop. But it's in Belgrade, Montana. Everybody's welcome. Would love to have you. Again, free food, free beer, free music, live music, and a bunch of really banger raffles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the raffles are bad to the bone.
Yeah.
In addition to that, on September 10th, so 1 week from this launching, we have the release of the Meat Eater Flying V TV series. Episode 1 launches on the 10th on the Meat Eater YouTube. And we're going to follow it up with another one of these, but this first episode is really for everybody to get to know who Brady and I are, what our backgrounds are, and then what our roles are within the team. And you get some cameos from Ryan and Dane, but really this is just to kick off a 3-year project with Meat Eater. It is all of our work from last year brought together. They're going to be launching 2 a month throughout the entire season, and we're very excited for you guys to check out all the hard work that we've put in over the last year to make this happen. So September 10th on the Meat Eater YouTube, Flying V.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it.
Little Cletus McFarland, huh, Ryan?
Oh, yeah.
There's your boy. A little tribute to your boy.
Yeah, buddy. And with all that, we'll get into the podcast here, huh?
Sweet.
Yep.
The intro. We're back. The Flying V crew in the truck once again. Headed home from Idaho. And, hang on, just pulling out here. Getting back on the open road. Should be home in the next few hours, 4 hours. And, what are we chatting about today, Corm?
Based on our experience over the last few days, I feel like, in the spirit of early season, we should just talk a little bit about our experiences that we've had and the goods, the bads, the learnings of early season. For me, I always get excited for early season, but then when I get out there, I'm quickly reminded how challenging the hunting can be in early season, basically anywhere I've been.
That was a very politically correct way of putting it.
Yeah, it sucks. it just does.
Yeah.
And if you live in an area where you have an early season in your backyard, I think that is a totally different experience than traveling to a place for a handful of days trying to piece something together.
I do agree. The guys that I know that live in different areas around the country that really mash them up in the early season, It's the local guys who have a ton of intel, no landowners, like have the program dialed, right?
Mhm.
Like if we had one in Bozeman, which we don't, I mean, we could have a few bangers every year.
Yeah. Oh, when I lived in Wisconsin, I mean, we would have 6 or 7 hunts in a 15-day period,
Really?
and we'd get them.
Yeah.
You know, you could shoot 5 a day. We'd go out there, shoot 10 or 15. It was great.
Yeah.
But, and I think about North Dakota as well. The only times that I've ever had like true bangers in Nodak, it's been with a local.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's just always there, right? Like he's just always scouting and always like these birds all came together on this little lake and now they're all feeding in this field. But that happened 3 weeks ago or something. I don't know.
Right.
It's just there's a lot of variables with early season.
Ryan, Dane, what are your guys' thoughts now? Well, Dane's done more, but Ryan's now done 2 early season trips.
Yeah, this is only the second time I've ever hunted out of a layout blind, or I guess in my case, filmed out of one. It's a challenge. It was really fun to see the geese work the way that we did. The one hunt that we had was awesome, and it's a different feeling. And I thought it was really cool because when you're laying on the ground versus sitting in an A-frame, they just feel a lot closer. I know one of the birds that Matt killed, it landed like 2 feet from me.
Yeah.
You feel a little vulnerable just laying on the ground out there.
Yeah.
But it was, as far as being my second time on an early season goose hunt, it was definitely better than North Dakota, even though we only had the one true hunt.
Yeah, we only had the one hunt. You know, I've now done the early season thing, 6 times or so. And the hunt we had this week was the single best hunt that I've ever had in the early season.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was
you
an
were saying
absolute
that.
hammer of a hunt, right? I mean, birds were doing it. They were good. They were decoying. It was working well. Now we were hunting an X. We were hunting in a, cut wheat field, so
Which I'm convinced is the only way you can hunt early season birds.
I
is
agree.
On an X.
I
Now
agree.
that could be a loaf X or a feed X, but running traffic in the early season seems like you'd be just barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, it's not something I would probably try.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure if somebody's listening, they have a story about how they've done it and it's worked really well.
Yeah, but I mean, still.
But that's an outlier.
Generalities,
It's an outlier, yeah.
Yeah. One thing that is always really fun is the stoke is always super high for
Totally.
early season because it's been 5-6 months since we've hunted, even turkeys. Like, everyone's fired up and ready to go. But the reality is it's a lot of work. You got to drive a lot. You got to scout hard if you're traveling to a place that you're not from. Like, it can be really hard to get permission, and maybe you have to walk in or whatever the case. Like, it's not easy hunting at all.
It's not your normal mid-season Canada goose hunt.
No, and the days are really long because you can only scout for a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours at night, which the sun rises earlier and sets later in the early part of the season. So, like, you got this big chunk of time in the middle of the day where you don't really have anything to do hunting-wise. So, yeah, there's a lot of challenges and considerations. Even though it can be really fun and everyone's excited to get out there, like, it can be hard.
Yeah.
Especially for freelance.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, again, to Matt's point, every time we've done the early season thing, we together as a crew has been like true freelance.
Yeah.
I mean, we just got back or heading back now from Idaho. We'd literally never been there during the hunting season ever. We knew no landowners, no nothing. Now, what was cool is through scouting and social media, we ended up meeting a couple of different crews. The Fisk brothers, we got to know them. Super nice guys, had breakfast with them. They're local killers. And then we met a group of guys from Utah and Nevada, who they were really cool too.
Yeah. And Cade.
And Cade, yeah, we had already decided to go to Idaho, and then I was like, you know what? I think a guy that I kind of grew up with lives there. Now, he's not a goose hunter at all, but he's a farmer. They do some farming and cattle and stuff, and so we did reach out to him, and so that was great. He did introduce us to one of the biggest farmers in the area, and that guy gave us permission on everything that he owned.
Mm-hmm.
But
He just didn't have any birds.
such as Murphy's Law, the biggest guy in the whole area with the biggest farm had no birds.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if he'd have had birds, it would have been awesome, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, it's hunting. So, again, day one hunt went really well. You know, anybody watching or listening to this is going to see that when the episode comes out next season from the Meat Eater show, the Flying V show. And, yeah, it's just a great time. I also agree with Dane. You know, the stoke is always mega high. I also agree with Matt. As soon as we get there and start scouting, it's not that the stoke goes down, but I think maybe reality sets in a little bit, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, this is going to be tricky.
Yeah, it's just hard. It can be really hard. It can also be really awesome. I was in North Dakota. Like, when you go early for, like, the first 10 days, I mean, those are all local geese. You have no new birds coming in. They know it's usually, like, at least the places that we hunt, it's really quiet. There's no wind in the mornings. It's warm. They're feeding in the very first field outside of wherever they're roosting or somewhere really close by, so they're not flying very far. Everything hears you. It's just there's a lot of unique variables, but I do really enjoy it, and my best hunts that I've ever had have been, you know, that later half of it in North Dakota when the birds start coming down. And you get like an actual moat migration, which is really cool when that crosses over with early season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And you had a local buddy, too. I mean, I think one of the takeaways that I've learned over the years of early season Canada goose hunting is go ahead and make a friend in the area you want to hunt, because it's way, way, way more effective
to work with them instead of against them.
to work with them instead of against them. And, you know, by nature, we love the freelance hunt, right? I mean, I really loved this week that we showed up in an area we knew nothing about, like literally zero. And just dissecting it, I mean, we did, in 3 days, we did 3.5 days, we did 6 different scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And we hunted one time.
Yep.
And the hunt was freaking awesome.
I think we did more scouts.
We
Yeah,
did six. Yep, it was six total scouts. And, you know, last night, we were going to hunt today, and then last night we did find a field with some birds in them. But kind of talked about it last night at the Airbnb, and my opinion is those birds were there because they had been messed with so much by all the other groups. There was a ton of pressure there, bunch of competition, which is totally awesome. But I think it just had those birds discombobulated, and they were just going wherever. And so by last night when we found those birds in the field, you know, my thought process was that it wasn't a sure deal that they were going to be back there the next day. And then this morning, I was up early and walking around out in front of the house, and it was only a couple groups, but I watched a couple groups come like they were going to go that direction, and then they basically hung a left and went straight east and ended up, you know, a couple miles north of where we saw them last night. Now, do I know if they were in there or not? No, but the birds that I saw did not go to that particular field. So, again, I think it's super fun to do, man. But
one of the things that is interesting about this hunt is that it's a very confined area. There's like 3 big bodies of water, and there's a limited amount of geese, right?
2 small counties.
Yeah, 2 small counties, limited amount of geese. There's people coming up from Utah. We're coming down from Montana. There's local hunters. So there's a high amount of pressure for the geographical area and the amount of birds compared to a place like North Dakota where the whole state is open and you can just keep driving.
Right.
Right? Like, you can start in one place, and if you strike out on 3 different fields getting permission or you don't find the birds, you can drive 4-6 hours and hunt or scout the evening and be in a totally different area.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Monday night after our hunt, we were fired up, spirits were high, looking for a hunt for the next morning. So we cracked out and went scouting. And tell them what happened, Corm.
Well, which time?
when we found the mega feed right over the county line.
Yeah, we went as far as we could. We went to every corner of this entire unit that's open, and as luck would have it, and it is, I find it hard to believe they know this, but the cut field just happened to be the second field over the line where we can't hunt.
Like 300 yards
Yeah, it was just
past the unit line.
Yeah, and we
It was a
spent.
greasy
we put
feed,
on like
too.
we put on like 120 miles or something, and the only birds that we found were outside
Just
of the
over
unit,
the line.
which was just, dumb luck, right?
Yeah.
Like on their part. Man,
It-
what I was impressed by was the amount of ducks. It shows that area definitely nests a lot of birds. That's
Tons
really cool.
of ducks.
That's really cool.
Even in our hunt Monday when we were goose hunting, man, we had, I don't know, what do you think, Matt? 2-to-1, 3-to-1 ducks to geese decoying?
Yeah.
I mean, we had a pile of ducks getting in.
Yeah, at least that. I mean, it was like group of 30, group of 30, group of 30. So that was really cool.
And it was consistent.
I mean, their hunt doesn't open for another month. I'd be interested to see what happens there, but I think I was really impressed by that.
Yeah.
And how the wetlands are doing down there and how many nesting birds there are.
Yeah, a lot of good habitat there, right?
Lots
Your
of good
point,
habitat.
wetlands, big bodies of water, small bodies, spring water, bunch of cattle in the area, so later in the season those birds are always going to have feed. Yeah, really, and it's a pretty area too. I mean, get a hunt right in these little tiny mountain valleys. And I say tiny, but compared to what we're used to in Montana, they're small, tight little valleys packed in there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So even though we went and, we planned to hunt a few times and we only hunted once, I don't feel bad about it at all. I actually felt like the trip was really, really awesome.
Yeah, it was I mean, it's just great to get out, and we had one hunt. I mean, it's rare for us for that to happen where we only hunt 1 out of 3 of our hunt days. But the truth is, I mean, we would have just went harder and harder and harder if we would have tried to go and kept going.
Right.
And I guess I just didn't have the desire to go walk a mile, all of our shit in 1 mile on that
Right.
last feed because of everything that was going on
Yeah.
with the birds.
Yeah, and one thing we talked about last night at the house was, one mistake we made this week is we did not bring the cart. We've got a cart, custom fabricated cart, that we can put 7 dozen lesser Canada Goose decoys in and push it in. And in one trip, we can take all of our guns, all of our layout blinds, all the decoys, everything in one trip. Whereas if we would have had to walk in, we probably would have tried to hunt over 10 or 12 days.
Yeah, we would have had to because
You're not going to make 8
2
trips back and forth.
We weren't prepared for any sort of walk-in stuff.
Especially a big, long-distance walk-in, which
Yeah.
one of the fields we got permission on, the owner said, you can hunt it, but you got to walk in. Well, the geese were frickin' a literal country mile away.
Yeah.
And then a couple of the other fields were, public fields. It's an access program, kind of like Montana has, where private landowners can put their farms into the program where the public can hunt them, but you can't drive in. And so, I think generally that works really well for big game guys and upland hunters, et cetera. But for dry field goose hunting,
It sucks.
it's a pain in the ass,
It sucks. But the cart does help solve some of that problem. I mean, the cart still is heavy as heck, and
It's work.
you gotta push it.
What I'll tell you is if we'd have had the cart, we can all agree we would have done it.
We would have done it, yeah.
I've got a question about the cart. What do you do in a situation like that when you do use the cart? How far away have you got to push it from your spread? Do you have to brush in the cart? Do you kind of use it to your advantage, or what's the process there?
We've kind of done it a couple ways.
Yeah. It has a canvas cover on it that's brown. So that's the first, and it comes down damn near the entire side, like the basket sides. And so from an aerial perspective, you can cover it all up. It's not a huge intrusion to the landscape. And then you can throw brush on it if you want. But what I usually do is I just push it all the way back empty to where the truck is, put it back in the truck. And then, I mean, you got to walk from the truck anyways. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
or
that
at
was-
least a distance.
For that one, we would have put it in the bottom of the draw.
We would have, yeah, I was going to say, we would have put it, down the fence line and kind of down in that draw. But the other thing, and that field had some different topography and some lava clumps in the middle of it, et cetera, and some bales. But if it was just a big, flat cut wheat field like the one that we got permission on that he said we had to walk in, you could potentially use that cart as a blocker.
You could.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could put it out in the field depending, like if the geese were coming from one direction to you, you could put it behind you, 150, 200 yards, and just hopefully keep geese from jumping you too far.
Or short stopping.
Or
you.
short stop you or whatever. So there's ways you could use the cart to your advantage, but I don't know, Matt. I mean, I would say generally we just move it far enough away that you're like, I think it's far enough away and the brown cover's on and we kind of leave it and it's been fine. Now, to your point, there's also been times when we've had a really badass edge or a group of trees somewhere. You can just push it in there and kind of stash it and hide it.
You can stash it. Or when Dane and I used it last year or the year before last year,
Yeah.
we just pushed it up into or 2 years ago, we just pushed it up into the truck. Because it wasn't that it was too far to hike everything out.
It's
the truck is
convenience.
only right there. It's like a quarter mile away. It's in a
Yeah.
good spot. You just load it back up.
Yeah,
Just walk it in.
and that was that's the reason for my question of that, because we were the one we had permission. It was the closest line from any road was 0.68 miles, which isn't that far, but the contour of that field would have been
would've been pretty
brutal.
far.
And then that last feed we found, it was well over a mile away, and so yeah, I just was curious on the added work. Yeah, it's the convenience of being able to take out 7 to 8 dozen decoys and our blinds and all of our gear. So
Yeah, it's heavy though, and so that brings up a point is when we do get them with it, what we'll do is we'll have to take 2 trips back a lot of times because you throw all the birds and then heavy stuff into the cart, push it back to the truck, and then come back and get all the decoys and everything. Because if you put 10, 15 geese on top of that thing or more, plus the blind bags, plus the guns hanging on the side, plus all the all the shit and all the stakes. The stakes
It's a
are
lot.
heavy.
Yeah.
It just gets to be really heavy.
yeah.
Well, and we've done hunts with the cart before that are like 8-man, 9-man hunts.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
A
if
lot
the
of
limit's
gear.
5, we're not putting 40 to 50 geese in that thing.
Yeah.
What I do think we would have done if we'd have brought it is we would have just brought the goose strap, leather goose carrier, and I mean 10's heavy, but
It's doable.
we'd have carried 10 out,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
split them up or something, carried them, however we did it. You'd have done it, especially on those fields because it was such a long walk in. We'd have, I think, damn sure figured out a way to do it in one trip.
I agree.
Yeah.
And again, with a 4-man, skeleton crew like we were running, and because Matt and I were the only ones hunting, we didn't have 4 guns and 4 blind bags and 4 of this and 4 of that. I mean,
We did have pelicans.
You
though.
just have
Well,
37 pelicans because of the camera guys.
yeah, but on a slim mission like that, I think you guys would have thrown some extra batteries in and grabbed your cameras and just carried them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just you'd each have one camera and some batteries in your, backpack or whatever, and off
Right.
we'd go.
Yeah.
You wouldn't bring the whole
No.
Pelican set. I would actually laugh if you did, and in my mind I would think, rookie move, but I'm gonna let him learn.
Or you could also think, man, he's taking his job serious. He is not leaving anything behind, and he's going to get all the shots.
I know you guys take your job serious, but I mean, I don't think you guys would be too pumped to pack in 4 giant Pelican cases.
Man, that's a thing that we could really get into, is making backpack straps for a pelican.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That wouldn't be bad.
There
Yeah.
you go.
I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about how our style of hunting changes so much. The last 2 years we've done early season hunts compared to the regular season, using the lay down ghillie blinds, using, different tactics, how the scouting is different. Just like if someone's never gone early season goose hunting, like it's not going to be, some of the fundamental principles are the same, but they're going to run into some things that are really different.
Yeah, they really are. And especially for us because we are A-frame hunters.
Right.
So we are edge hiders. That's how, we hide on the edge every time.
Like, yeah, 99% of the time.
And so for us, we come to a place that has an early season hunt, and the fields are really big. And because they just got cut and there's so many young geese, they land in the middle. That's where they start. You know, they're safe, they're secure, they're out in the wild, but they can see everything. And so they're always in the middle. I mean, rarely have we found them on the edge anywhere. So you end up
or
using,
even close to the edge.
No, I mean, they don't.
Where you might feel like you could pull them to the edge.
Now, edge of if you were hunting, say in Wisconsin, and it was or Minnesota, and it was a silage cut field, and half the field was cut and half the field wasn't, standing corn, like, you can kill them from the edge there.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
Really well. But for the most part for us, one of our biggest changes is using a layout blind, which we've kind of stopped using in the past 2 years. Basically
3 years,
2.5 years, yeah. And yeah, the ghillie blinds just take a little bit of getting used to in general, and we don't use them enough. You kind of feel a little bit just like, okay, trying to remember how to use it. That first group comes in and you go to throw it off, and you got to remember, you got to grab your gun by the pistol grip, throw the blanket off, lean up, and I think the shot call is a little bit earlier because it takes so much more time to get out of that thing.
Yeah.
It hides awesome, but it takes a long time to get up and out of it.
That's one thing I was just going to say. You know, we use the Rig'em-Right ghillie blinds, and those things are really, really good for hiding. You know, the ghillie cover zips on, and we've got them in tan, we've got them in green, and we bring all that with us in the trailer. So when we're out scouting now, this year, it was cut barley and wheat was what everything was in, so everything's tan. But having the ability, like we did last year in North Dakota, we had a really good hunt. We were in a kind of a green patch, kind of a mixed green patch. The ability to unzip that ghillie cover and switch the color is really a pretty gangster move.
Oh yeah,
It's the play. I mean,
and it does make a white one too.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody was gonna hunt out of those a lot, I'd say get yourself one of those blinds and get the white, get the tan, get the green, and dude, you're set.
You're set. It doesn't match perfectly to anything, but it morphs into about any environment.
And we still brush them.
Yep, you still brush them.
We
still
brush.
Get natural cover. It's really just a good base.
And it's just such a breakup because there's so many different colors and patterns, and that ghillie, like every ghillie, is just kind of wild in general. So it just blends in well.
Yes, it does.
And they're very low profile, lower profile than a traditional layout blind.
Yes, extremely low profile, which is good in some instances.
Like hunting the center of a cut wheat field.
Yep. One thing that it takes me time to get used to, and I just want to use them a little bit more to have, we have 7 hunts out of them or whatever. And one thing that I don't like about them, or I need to get used to about them, is the fact that there's not much room for storage. Like, you have storage room alongside of you, but it's really tight. And so accessing that stuff is a little bit challenging. And then having the gun outside the blind, and you got to pick it up with your right hand because it's a left-hand delivery. So left hand here, pick the gun up, and then bring your other hand in. It was hard with the side-by-side because that thing is so heavy.
Side-by-side 10 gauge that Matt was shooting.
Yeah, so like
the waterfowl widowmaker, as TK and Mike would say.
What I ended up having to do is grab it by the beaver tail and pick it up, throw the cover off, and then make a switch. It wasn't the right gun for the situation.
Yeah.
I made a mistake there. But it was still awesome. It was just really slow.
I will say, when I watch you shoot geese with the 10-bore, it sure looked like the right gun. And
oh, yeah. I'm saying from my
trigger
standpoint,
got pulled.
that would kill him for sure.
Yeah.
But there was that one, there was one flock where they kind of were super low to the ground. They came across us left to right, and you called the shot, and I tried to get up and get on the birds, and, like, I couldn't even get on the last one.
Yeah.
And you were already on them, so I didn't shoot.
Yeah.
But, like, it was just slower than I'm used to.
Yeah, I think it's, to Dane's point, backing up a little bit, what we've learned is that for us, layout blinds are the ticket for the early season.
Yep.
And
decoy strategy matters. When you look at the birds in the field, they're still in their family groups. So you'll see a lot, we got some pretty cool footage of it where the birds would all come in, they kind of land with the group, and then they split off into their families, and you'll see 6 or 7 heads down and 2 heads up, one in the front, one in the back, and they'll just be watching. It's really cool to see the adults looking over the goslings as they're like integrating themselves into the environment. I mean, this is the first time they've ever gone out and actually ate something out of a cut field. They're learning how to interact with other geese, and they're a little bit vulnerable still, right? I mean, it was so cool to watch them. You'd see these birds come in, and all the little ones, they just love to maple leaf in. Gosh, we saw how many doing that on this trip.
A ton.
I mean, it's so cool to see that, and we don't get to see that as much during the regular season.
You know, one thing I did love on our hunt, so there was a pile of ducks coming in too. So obviously there's a whole bunch of juvie ducks. And we were landing ducks in the decoys just before shooting light and then till we left. I mean, there was a pile of ducks. We had this one single juvie hen come in right in front of us, bows up, right, like coming straight at us. We're like, holy smokes, you'd kill this thing with a BB gun. You'd catch it with a fishing net. And she goes to land like right at the end, basically, of Ryan's layout blind, it felt like. And she lands and goes to hit, and she's still kind of figuring out how to land in a cut field and lands, and that stubble gets her, and she just does a full front flip, just and like kind of gets up and shakes her head like, what the hell just happened? And all 3 of us were just dying laughing.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was pretty funny to see. I mean, it was right in front of us too, so we got to see the whole show.
So decoy strategies, layout blinds, that's a big difference for us.
Calling's different. It seems like it's always lighter calling.
Yeah, and I can't tell if it works better or not. Like, you'll pick up the calling, and then one flock will really come into a lot of calling, and then all of a sudden one flock will like turn dead away from it.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason. It's been hard for me to figure out what's right in those hunts.
Well, and I again, I'm speaking in generalities, right? That I think in general, it's less calling than you would do mid to late season.
Yeah.
Especially if you're out early season goose hunting with 6 or 8 of your buddies, you do not need 6 or 8 of you ripping on the goose call.
Totally agree.
I mean, I did very, very, very little calling, and you did more, but you still, compared to if it was November, December, I mean, it's a fraction of the calling.
Yeah.
Now, we were on the biggest feed that was in the whole valley. We did real well on that hunt and getting permission. So, admittedly, we didn't have to do a whole lot. The reason we would call is because they want to land long, because they've been in this field that's giant. They've been 400 yards spread out from end to end of the feed. So as they're coming in, most of our calling wasn't calling them from the stratosphere and talking them into coming to the field. It was once they got to the field and they were starting to kind of change their wing beats, calling them to bring them all the way over to us, to the decoys.
Yeah, and trying to center them up.
Bingo,
Yeah, the calling is definitely different. Now, what I'll say is that is in from August 15th to September 10th or so. Once you get into those molt migrators and you have adults, non-breeding adults coming back, and you start getting southern, you start getting a migration, the calling picks up.
Then it's different,
It picks up.
And that is a great point in early season, because the way these states have them, it seems to be the first half of it's kind of just all local birds that you're hunting. And then the second half, there's a really good possibility of having some molt migrators come in.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, the guys in Minnesota, I mean, they dream for those days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think for me, if we were going to be doing the early season every year and we were pretty dedicated to it, I would prefer to hunt the latter part of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's September 10th to the 15th or 15th to the 20th, whatever the dates are. If it goes from the 1st to the 15th, I would rather go the 10th to the 15th. Now, we were there for the opener this year because we got a lot to do. We've got archery elk, archery deer opening in Montana. And you have some travel plans. We have some work stuff we got to do. So
I mean, we got the migration mixer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the migration mixer on September 21st.
We are
there at Flying V Shop.
throwing a mega party at the new Flying V shop. So if you guys see this beforehand and you're in the area, or you want to drive or fly, do what you want. But September 21st, we are going to have an epic throwdown at the new Flying V shop. Free food, free beer, live music. We've got a whole band coming. We've got some awesome raffles we're going to be doing.
Yeah, killer raffles.
Like a pile of raffles from some really cool gear. Yeah.
It's gonna be an event where you can come and talk to goose hunters or folks in waterfowl that have done it for a long time. A lot of guys that, like myself, are learning it. Like, it's for everybody. Family friendly. It's a place where you can celebrate, the beginning of waterfowl season just a week later.
Yep.
The Flying V Migration Mixer.
First annual,
September 21st, Flying V HQ.
5 to 10 o'clock.
5 to 10 o'clock. So,
Belgrade, Montana. If you do want to come, if you go to the Flying V Solutions Instagram or Matt and I's personal Instagrams or Dane or Ryan's, there's a flyer on there we've made. It's got the shop address and everything.
In Old Bell Rage, Montana.
It's going to be a party. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're excited to see everybody. The stoke will be high because that's on a Saturday. The next Saturday is when Montana waterfowl season opens.
Yep.
So kind of just get everybody together, have everybody stoked, have a little bit of fun together with the hunters and families and whoever wants to join. And, yeah, a week later we'll all be,
hunting in Montana.
Giving her the old college try.
Yeah. I'm really excited for season to open up there at home. Gal, just ready to get it going.
Me
it's
too.
a marathon, but we're ready.
Me too, man. I'm fired up. So, yeah. Anyway, we're stopped here. We're going to go grab a little lunch before we keep on keeping on this road trip that we're on. But, yeah, those are our thoughts from the early season, kind of some takeaways from this week. Super fun. Cool area, cool people. It's tricky.
It's hard.
Be prepared to get slapped in the face a little bit, but
Probably doable, but it's hard.
yeah, probably doable, he says, but it's hard. Yeah, is it worth doing? I think all early season trips are worth doing, but you'd have to manage your expectations.
Yes.
You're not going to go in every time and pile them up with 6 guys and shoot your limit. And, everybody in North Dakota, for example, everybody looks at the limit like, dude, we get to kill 15 a day. Well, I know it happens, and guys do it, especially the local guys that have a real finger on the pulse. I've never even come close to killing 15 in a day in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So
I have, but it's been with a local.
Right.
So.
Right. Bingo. So.
Yeah. Well, this podcast is going to be launching on September 4th, which is tomorrow. And then 1 week from then, we're going to launch the next Over the Road podcast, which is going to be talking all about last season, the Meat Eater TV show, which launches September 10th. So make sure to tune into that. This first episode is really going to set up the whole rest of the season. We've seen it, and I think it's really good. I'm super excited for people to see what we've created and going forward.
Totally agree. And if you guys like what we're putting out, please subscribe, hit like, comment on the YouTube. We're trying to get this out to people. And if you like what we're putting out, let us know and hit the subscribe button. Peace out, guys.
See you guys.